Wow, that was good.
This
Do that
is
again.
Pop Culture
Do it again.
Yearbook.
Do it again.
Shut up, Pete. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Giff.
All right, and this is our last Second Chance Month episode, but it's really kind of its own special episode because we have a very special guest on tonight. And so he chose the topic, but I would have chosen this topic, no doubt about it, at some point.
Oh,
Maybe
God,
one of
yes.
you would have too. So I'm very excited about it. But anyway, we got Brian Rappe back. He's of the famous Office Space episode, and he's been on a couple of our other game show episodes too.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome back, Rappe.
B-Rap.
Fantastic to be back. Thank you. Always looking forward to it, and always looking forward to see you guys for real.
It is always a good show when you're on.
Yes, and he's our biggest benefactor as well. I mean, he's the reason the lights are on. Let's be honest.
That's right.
So, we don't plug it as much anymore, but we do have our Buy Me a Coffee, and Rappe is on because he is one of our best supporters. And so we will have him on multiple times whenever it works. So if you would like to do that, please do it. The links are all still there and ready for you anytime.
Giffy's thirsty.
So normally when we have a guest on, we will ask them what their influences in pop culture were, but it's a first-time guest. But you've been on before, so I'm going to ask you, Rappe, is there anything new that has caught your eye in the last year, maybe a movie or something that stood out, or anything you want to share?
The newest one, and this is, I know I'm late to the show for this, but I really got into Peaky Blinders this summer. So I'm on season 5 of that and really digging it, but also realizing I can't watch it right before bed because also now I'll have very angry and fighting dreams throughout the night. So, and then I'll just wake up angry, and that just doesn't do anybody any good. So.
Welcome to my world.
That is a show that the only thing I know about it is the title, so I am not very familiar with it. What's a short little summary of what causes you to have nightmares?
It's old gang stuff out of England, Ireland, Scotland.
Not what I thought.
From starting in like right around Prohibition or right after World War I, going into Prohibition, and like I'm the season where they're in the Depression right now, and it's interesting just watching the union stuff or the anti-union stuff, and
that'd be right up your alley.
Yeah. So it's familiar territory, and sometimes the anti-union stuff is what gets me angry. Sometimes it's the cruelty of other people getting me angry, but it reminds me a lot of Boardwalk Empire from HBO, and there's definitely a little Sopranos if they were in the past kind of thing. So a lot of HBO shows, it definitely, I was like copied, but got its influence from.
What do you watch it on?
I am watching it on Netflix right now.
Okay. Well, that is interesting because I always thought that show was a comedy, and I don't know why, but
Wow.
Clearly my vision of it was not correct.
Maybe
Very
it
much
will
the
be-
opposite.
It will be for you, Brad. You think that stuff is funny?
How am I funny to you?
Yeah. Or maybe I'm watching it wrong.
I doubt that. I'm usually the one who's a little off when it comes to that stuff.
Courtney is a fan of that show as well, and she's repeatedly asked me to watch it, and I just haven't taken the time to get into it. But yeah, she's a fan of
Now
that.
you will. Now you will.
Yeah. Now that
You don't
Rappe
do
says-
you don't do things when your wife tells you, but when somebody else tells it to you, now you got to go do it.
for sure, which always makes her so happy.
Yeah,
That's something my wife used to say all the time. So
same.
I think maybe I've convinced her it's not necessarily true, though.
No.
All
All right. Let's move on from the marital advice.
So we are here to talk about your choice for tonight, Rappe. So why don't you tell us what you picked and why, and we'll chime in after that with our thoughts.
I picked the movie Swingers from 1996.
So money.
Beautiful baby, man. Reason I picked it is this movie hit me like I didn't see it in the theaters, but it hit me like when I was out of college, when I first was starting my career, and before I was doing my master's degree work. So it was kind of I like every sentiment, every feeling, every trying to figure things out reflects that time of my life, and it was just it's always a fantastic rewatch. It was 3 years before I went to Vegas, started going to Vegas, but this is part of my tradition of me and my friends call it Vegas Lent. So it's 30 days before your next trip to Vegas. You start saving money, start building your tolerance up, and then I just start watching movies. So like this is the first one. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is in there, and then a handful of others. But
Vegas Vacation.
yeah.
Probably
Far
not.
superior of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, sorry. Did you have more about the movie?
Just that when the way I found it was Friday night at a Blockbusters, and it
Okay.
was sitting on the shelf next to Clerks with a sign that said, "If you like Clerks, you'll like this movie."
Oh, well, there you go.
And it's just like, okay, this isn't a choice.
Did you watch it alone the first time?
Watched it in a group,
Okay.
and but have watched it many times alone afterwards.
Yeah. Well, so like I said, I mean, for me, this is like a top 5 movie of all time for me. I'm not sure what my top 5 is, but this is in it. And I watched it alone. I was just curious because I rented it too. I don't know too many people that actually would have seen it in the theater. But I'd heard about it. I think my brother, or maybe not my brother, my sister and her husband, so Craig and Danica, they've been on this show. I believe they told me about it. Like, I think they had seen it. And I think I'd read about it probably in Entertainment Weekly or something like that too. And so I knew a little bit about it, and I'd heard all this buzz, and I went and rented it, and I was living alone that year. And I had recently been dumped by my girlfriend. And so, I mean, this movie it just hit me in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it meant so much to me. It came at a time, so I was single, I was living alone. I couldn't have related to Jon Favreau more. I loved these guys, these characters. Him and Vince Vaughn were just, I mean, they were just revelations. And but at that time in my life, it was shortly before I was living with you, Pete. And I was living with I was living alone that year. But after that, for like the next 3 years, I was living with all my best friends. Or if I wasn't living with them, we were seeing each other all the time. And so we played video games, and there's the Sega hockey scene, and we were going out, and everybody was so close. And just that whole group aspect spoke to me at that time too. And the other thing that I loved about it was the music. So the swing aspect of it I thought was so cool. And I loved the swing revival there in the late 90s. That was something that I really enjoyed. It also made me think a lot of the Rat Pack. And I've mentioned that before. I'm a huge fan of the Rat Pack and Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra. Mm-hmm. And I love the settings. I love Vegas and I love LA. And we talked on LA Story about how like our perception of LA is like much better than what it really is. But I like to think of it that way. The perception I had of those places and how great they are visually on screen just made me love it even more. And it just fit that idea. You had these characters who were struggling, but there was this limitless potential, these young actors, and going to Vegas, you're going to hit it big, and nothing really worked out very well, but it was that idea that like you can do anything. And so I loved it. And that's so many reasons why I loved it. And those are a few of them right there. And I don't know how many times I've watched it since. 150.
I feel about this. By the way, before I get into mine, and the listeners won't appreciate this, but Brad, do you have some kind of filter on because you look very angelic right now?
I noticed that
great.
too.
It looks like you're in heaven.
It must be the way the sun is shining out the window.
It's amazing. You should get a little.
It's my
halo.
Carrie Lake filter.
Yes.
There you go.
Trying it out tonight.
But you guys both hit it on the head. I'm sure you will too, Gifford, as you always do. But it's that era of your life. It just watching this movie takes you back to that time where anytime you'd go out, that was the game. It was like you'd go out as a group of 5 guys and see who could score. You're always looking at looking for the hot women or whatever, and then
Beautiful
nothing
babies.
ever really materializes, right? But it's it just that the whole like brotherhood of that time of your life, which we all had, it just hits you, and it's like how supportive these friends are to each other. It's like, yeah, they're dicks to each other, but it's because they love each other, right? And it's like how Vince Vaughn, or Trent is his name in the movie, but like just how he does come across as kind of a cocky, arrogant guy, but he's really the most supportive friend for Jon Favreau, Mikey, that you could have. Like, he's so supportive, and some of the other ones are too, but it's like he just is always positive and uplifting, and he's really making Mikey feel better about himself when he really needs it. Not to mention his other friends too, the John Livingston character,
Rob.
Yeah, it's like and there's a scene which we'll get into that's later in the movie where he just shows up as to his apartment when he's just feeling at his lowest point in the entire movie, and it's just like that's the turning point of the movie for me. But it's like yeah, it takes me back, and I think of the days when we'd go to the Wild Onion, Brad, and when we lived together. And like you said too, that whole like Las Vegas is its own genre in and of itself, and the style. It's like the clothes they wear, and the car he's driving, the convertible that he's driving at the beginning of the movie, it's just so cool and it's so perfect.
But
Fitting
not
for the
everybody's. John
Un-
Mikey drives a Chevy Cavalier. It's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
So
right,
it's
right,
not like everybody's
right,
got a
exactly.
cool car and has everything.
Yeah, but I'm
Gifford
talking
had a
about
Cavalier.
By the way, it's like one just last point. It's like everybody thinks of this as one of the quintessential Las Vegas movies, but really only about 20 minutes of the movie takes place in Las Vegas. It's like that first little section, and then they go back to LA right away, and then all the rest of it takes place in LA. But it's like the scenes are so great in Vegas because that takes you back too, because we've all been there where you have these great expectations, and then it's just all goes to shit right away in the first 10 minutes.
We talked about that on our Vegas episode about Gifford's rough night in Vegas. So
yes,
Yep.
we did. Do we
Been
want
there,
to
done
relive
that.
it?
No,
We could
let's
relive
not.
it again. All right. Okay.
So I have a odd relationship with this movie in that I've probably only seen it 3 times.
oh my god,
And I watched it again this time
you
in
think you know
preparation.
somebody?
And it's so weird because I love Favreau. I love so many things that he's in, starting back at, Rudy, and along with Vince, and PCU. Ron Livingston's great. And, my brother from another mother, Vince Vaughn, and, one of his first roles, I think it's his 3rd movie role that he's ever been in. And the story's good, but it just never grabs me. And I love the characters. I love the actors. But it's not one that I go back to over and over and over again. It's the lines, the scenes, but it's just not one that ever, has been like in my heart, I guess is the way I'd like to say it. So
it's not a movie that has a real deep plot, and it's not meant to. It's meant to just kind of capture a portion of this guy's life, which a lot of us have been through, and it's meant to, just reflect a slice of real life. So it's not intended to have like a what's that? Why is that?
With Gifford, I have no idea.
Okay.
Well, I've picked movies that don't have real plot to them. I mean, I picked Dumb and Dumber this month. I've picked Dazed and Confused. So yeah, it's strange to me why this one doesn't grab me more than it does, but I guess it just really never has. And it's not to say I don't enjoy it. It's not to say that I don't love seeing these guys really early on in their career. Like I say, this was Favreau's, I think, 7th movie, Livingston's 3rd. So it's fun to see them at the beginning of their career and see how skinny they are and how young they are.
Jon Favreau especially. Compare him to now.
Any of them. Vince Vaughn,
but especially him. He's the one that's changed the most.
His neck is like super thin. You can just tell how young these guys are. And the other thing I liked about it, watching it through again this time, I just pick up some things that I thought were interesting that I really enjoyed as far as the movie making aspect of it, because I haven't seen it that many times. So I'm looking forward to talking about it with you guys. I find that I enjoy things more when talking about it with friends. So this is going to be a good episode tonight.
I mean, with all the times I've watched this with my friends, I can't believe that we have this gap where I didn't even know this. I always assumed you were there. I mean, we've quoted this movie nonstop for 25, 35, 30 years now almost.
Yeah. I'm afraid we're going to no longer be able to be friends, Gifford. Sorry.
Well, and I'm assuming that's why Rappe's on tonight. I figured this was my swan song.
And
Rappe's coming in, just trading one Brian out for another.
I thought I was taking heat for not being a huge fan of Superbad, but this is another level.
Yeah. Again, like I say, it's not that I don't like the movie; it just doesn't grab me. I enjoyed watching it this time.
It's more that I'm shocked that I didn't know this about you. That's what I can't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say one other thing before we get into the movie. You keep talking about the guys and guys supporting each other. There's something about this movie, though. It's not just a guy movie. Like, I know all kinds of women that love this movie too. My wife is very picky. She loves this movie. She watched it with me the last time I had watched it, I think before this. My sister loves this movie. I know lots of women that like this movie. And even though it's mostly guys, I don't think that it doesn't appeal to a wider audience too.
Well, it's the relationship aspect of it. It's kind of fun to see, so many times you've got romantic comedies or whatever where women are going through the struggles and tribulations of breaking up with somebody and feeling bad. This is the opposite side of that. You see it from the guy's perspective. He's this love lost and just trying to make it through and leaning on those around him. So I think you see it from the other side.
I also think it reflects the ages where these guys are at too.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't understand women well. And clearly like
unlike us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's always saying that it's an autobiography of Favreau. So I don't even know if he knew how to reach out to women to get him in this guerrilla kind of independent film.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's so maybe you're referring to one thing I didn't know until this time watching and looking into it more is that a lot of those like bar scenes, like the extras were just there. Like they were filming it like on a regular night and they were told like you're going to be an unpaid extra if you are here, and that's how it worked. I thought that was pretty cool.
I also heard that they put like they went in and wherever they were shooting they put 100-watt light bulbs into the bar lights, and that's how they lit the place. So that's how they could move around and not up into rigging and stuff and run into things. And the other thing I heard that the director was not really stealing film, but any unused film left over from any other movie he would grab, and they would use that because they didn't have enough money to buy film.
Or like outdoor shots and stuff like that of the city and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Well, and the other thing that I love watching it and I kind of caught on to it. I'm sure people who've watched it a million times get this. I love the scene where the guys are talking about Scorsese's movies and this and that.
There's a lot of references to
and they do the talk about Reservoir Dogs and the slow-mo walk scene. Well, then they go right into the slow-mo with the music walk scene. They've got they talked about I don't remember which
filming in a casino. Casino in a casino, but Goodfellas is where they walk in with that long panning shot through the restaurant and they go through the back door and they follow them for like 5 minutes. That's all.
They do that shot. And they also talk about filming a casino. Of course, they filmed at a casino in this. So I just love how they're talking about how hard all of this is. And they're actually incorporated in their own movie. I just, I thought that was kind of fun to see.
Great. All right. Well, let's talk more specifically. Now, for me, I could just go through and read you all my quotes, but that probably wouldn't be the best way to go about this. So, Rappe, what's your first note? Where do you want to start here?
I start right at the beginning, and I always forget how this starts with him and Ron Livingston talking with each other.
I forgot about that too.
Yeah, you always think about him coming in later in the movie.
Yeah. I always thought he would like part 3 is also we're introduced to him, and it's like, oh yeah, no, he right away introduced and
but they're also in that diner, which is where the movie, you think of the ending in the diner. And so it's that bookend that I never really, maybe I but I hadn't remembered it until watching it here.
Yep. And just listening to Favreau's character, and just I had so many notes growing up. Is like, after a breakup, don't be this guy. As hard as it is, don't be this guy.
And I gotta say, I was that guy. So that's makes it.
And
who wasn't in their 20s?
Yeah, but
not everybody. But
I actually, you know what the opening scene reminds me of? Seinfeld. Because they're sitting in the cafe, and it's just like Jerry and George kind of talking to each other, and they have that other booth in Seinfeld. They don't use it very often, but there's that booth on the side that they use occasionally, and it kind of has that feel to it. And there's a couple of scenes actually between those two characters, and then later on with
Mikey?
with Trent. Yeah.
Well,
what was Trent and Mikey? Yeah. So
well, and I think I do, even before the diner, just the credit scene has "You're Nobody Till Somebody Loves You" by Dean Martin, and it gives you that vibe right off the bat. And I know the original plan for tonight, we were going to talk about soundtracks, but I'm sure we'll talk about the soundtrack as we go.
Oh,
this is one of my all-time favorite soundtracks.
Trailers,
and it's got that mix of that old-time music and then like the newer, the swing stuff and just all kinds of different stuff on it. It's a great mix.
Yeah.
I think it's what I heard, that they spent a quarter of their budget on the soundtrack.
That makes sense.
I'm sure it was only $4.5 million for the budget, for crying out loud.
I love so after that diner scene is when he goes home and he gets the phone call from Trent, which is going to lead to Vegas. I got 2 lines there that I want to say. My favorite one, because this fits the time period so well. I'm supposed to be happy because she's wearing a backpack. Do you remember how the girls used to wear those little backpacks in the 90s? And it was like such a thing, and it was like such a little fashion thing. They were useless or whatever, but we're supposed to think it's so cute and love it. That line is just the epitome of the time. I love that line.
I was at a Mike Doty concert at First Ave, and I was up on the 2nd floor looking down, and there was a beautiful baby walking around with a tiny backpack. And I said that line so many times that night that I'm sure my friends were sick of me.
And it's just, he's going on such a tirade too. And that line is just buried in it, but it just stands
so
out
random.
Like
you're not expecting it. Yeah.
And then of course he's getting urged to go to Vegas with Trent. And then there's that little pause and he says, "You bring something nice to wear."
Right.
All right. I listen to you. Now you listen to me. You bring something nice to wear.
Mm-hmm.
So like I wondered about that scene. Is this like the reverse Ferris Bueller scene? And it's like Mikey's Cameron and Vince Vaughn is Ferris Bueller, and trying to convince them.
It is similar.
Yeah.
Another movie call out, perhaps.
Oh, that's good.
So I would like to point out that it's 3 hours and 48 minutes between LA and Vegas.
Oh, I've thought a lot about that, but we don't know what time it is when he gets home, do we?
No, but Trent starts off saying, we're going out to a party. We're going up to the hills. It's no big deal. We're going out tonight. I got a call back at 9. But he's just lying to him just to get him out the door. Obviously he's not, because they end up going to Vegas and not getting back till God knows what time the next day.
Yeah, he missed that callback.
Yeah, he definitely. That's why I say it's he was just trying to convince his buddy that we can go out tonight, still find the beautiful babies and have some fun. And I think in the middle of this whole tirade of trying to convince his friend, he just keeps pushing and pushing, and it's like, oh, Vegas, we're gonna go to Vegas tonight. That's what we'll do. We just make.
Well, what you talking about, Vegas? What do you mean Vegas?
Yeah, it's just.
I ain't going to no Vegas.
I ain't going to no Vegas.
And then how they, they're on the way there, and they're, talking about this is how it works, and they're so strapped for cash. He's got $300. Again, back in your 20s, you got no freaking money, so it's just great talking about how, we'll walk in, we got the suits, I'll lay down 100, they'll give us, comp us the room and the food and all this stuff. And of course he walks up to $100 minimum table, lays all his money down and gets 3 freaking chips.
Feel like he could have just walked away and gone to a different table at that point, but
he was going to, but he looked at the other table, remember, and it was all trash people there.
That's true.
And so that's why and the dealer suggested he go to a different table. And that was why he didn't, because it was like not what he was looking for.
Oh, and speaking of that other table, Vince Vaughn's dad and Jon Favreau's grandma are two of the gamblers sitting at that table.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Was she the one that got the free breakfast?
I think it's her.
Gotta be her.
I'm not sure.
I think so.
No, well, yeah, I'm not sure.
There's one biker dude, and then, that's really stood out. And then there was the old lady, and then there's a kind of a slutty blonde, I think. And,
that's his grandma, the slutty blonde.
Nice.
She's trying to be a beautiful baby still.
But speaking of the 4 hours to Vegas, I love that too, because they're just Vegas baby, which is maybe the most famous phrase of the whole movie. Right. It's at least one of them. But like they don't like act like it's 20 minutes to Vegas. I love when they're all tired. George Jones is playing, and they're just like basically half asleep, and they've lost all that energy. But then they see the lights.
Well, they see the lights, and then it's like Vegas, baby. Like they don't quite have that. I see it. It's like land ho. It's like, oh God, there it is. All right, let's go.
I've only driven to Vegas one time, and went through the Grand Canyon, and so came on the other side. But same thing. Like we were in Moab, Utah.
Oh, nice.
Got up like at 4:30 in the morning and just started driving straight into Vegas. And even I think it was probably 4 p.m. we finally got there. Bright out and everything. But just to see Vegas on the horizon, it's just like, that. It's amazing. It's so cool.
I love driving in from out, on so far away, you can just see it. And whether it's day or night, it just looks awesome.
Yep.
That blackjack scene, I feel like, is about, everybody thinks of the phone call, which we're going to get to, where he calls the girlfriend over and over. I feel like that blackjack scene is maybe just about as awkward as the phone call scene. It is
it's painful to watch.
The blackjack scene with the dealer. Do you know what that scene reminds me of? What other scene from a movie that we all love? It just, for whatever reason, it reminds me of the In Vacation, Not Without a Major Credit Card. That scene. And it just, for whatever reason, it has that same kind of vibe to it. For me, that's what triggered. Well, it could be because I just saw that scene 2 weeks ago,
and it's just great because they're at the $100 minimum table, and he loses $200 right away, and all they talked about was, this is how you get the comps, this is how you do it. And then they go to the $5 table, and grandma wins a modest pot, and right away the pit boss comes over. Hey, can we get you some breakfast? She's just
I should.
Right, yeah, she's just doing her thing, and it's just another punch in the gut to these guys.
And I love how she keeps hitting on 17, and if you don't look close enough, the biker guy, the big guy next to him, like he's doing the whole side.
Yep.
And then when she wins, he gives the slow clap.
They all clap.
That is so great. How many of these characters have you run across when you're out there?
Oh,
have you seen anybody really just look completely awkward and out of place like that, trying too hard?
So the first time I went out to Vegas, I started playing poker at Circus. And this one guy sat down and we were playing 7-card stud. And after his first hand, he's like, I have 3 pairs. And like, God. Sir, that's not how it works. He's like, no, I've got 3 pairs.
Oh, God.
And he's like, no, you only have 2 pairs. And this gentleman has a full house. You did not win. And the guy got up and just like stormed off angry. And it's like, learn to play.
Right.
Did he have 6 cards?
Well, 7-card
so
stud.
with 7-card stud, I think it was 4 in the hand. Like,
okay.
It's a lot of cards. It's way more than Texas Hold'em.
7.
So.
When we went to Vegas, for Hummel's bachelor party, Chris and I went in. We were downtown on Fremont Street. Not sure which casino it was. It might have been the Four Queens or something, but we went and played blackjack. And there was this big, like, just muscular, badass guy, bald, and he had this huge 666 tattoo on the back of his head. And it's just like, should we even be sitting near this guy? And he was the friendliest guy we've ever met.
Right. Of course.
It's like, hey guys, what's up? and we had a great time playing with him, and he was fun and he was funny and everything. And he was awesome.
Well, and that low stakes table, that is my table. Like that's the table I go to.
Well, yeah. Well, that's where you go have fun.
Yeah.
The second time I was in Vegas, we were with a couple of our mutual friends, and we were on Fremont Street, but we went to, it's called the Golden Spike. It was like a block off of Fremont Street. And we sit down to play blackjack, and they hand us the cards. And like you hold your cards there, and we were like, we didn't know what to do, because you're not supposed to touch your cards. You don't do anything with them.
Yeah.
But you actually hold them and pick them up where we were. And so that was a little awkward, and we had to figure out what to do there and if we were going to get in trouble. But so they do have, little different rules from place to place at times.
When I was in Deadwood a few weeks ago, we were playing blackjack, and there were some tables where that was the thing. Like one of the tables you'd hold your cards, and like the two other tables I was at and other people, they just left them on the table. But I don't know if we could have held our cards or not. Nobody at my table was, so I was leaving them on, the table. So yeah, it was kind of different.
The other great line in the whole blackjack scene is when the waitress does ask him what he wants, and he tries to order the Glenlivet, any Glen will do, and he's just, oh my God, it's just so hard to watch.
Well, and then the way he talks to the waitress, and he's got a shiny 50-cent piece, and she hurries. I know Trent when he's doing it, it's so great, and Mikey's just appalled by his friend and how he's talking to these women, but. Trent is just steadfast in his confidence that that's going to work, and obviously it does. And
it did. Who's the big winner tonight at the casino?
Mikey.
Yeah. Mikey wins. Okay, Gift, I have a note here because you're our resident counter.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know if you counted or found how many times, especially in this first 20 minutes, Vince Vaughn says the word babies.
No, I didn't. Oh my God.
I tried to look it up and I couldn't really find an actual answer, but it is an insane amount.
Right.
Because
Yes,
he's not just about the beautiful babies, he's calling Mikey baby, and everybody's baby. It's just, it's crazy.
No, sorry, I missed that one. But I did, again, we talked about this when we covered Dazed and Confused, that the waitress that, they end up with is Siobhan, I believe is the character's name from Dazed and Confused.
Yeah, so Dina Martin, no relation to Dean Martin.
She is the
waitress, and she's got that great part here. You brought this up kind of earlier, Pete. What I love too, though, is Vince Vaughn is so like brash and in your face and just Mr. Confident. But I love that the contrast between the two.
Yeah,
because we all have in this group. I don't know. We're probably mostly the Jon Favreau character, but maybe who knows? But we've got that friend who just can do no wrong, and it's like, how do you do that? How do you act like that? That's not
Gifford.
Me.
That's Gifford.
Maybe it was at some time. I don't know.
Yeah, not anymore. I don't know.
But it's the contrast, but how he still loves John, looks over for Mikey and builds him up. Who's the big winner? It's all so great. So,
well, the best part about it is Mikey's just so pissed because he didn't win anything, and
he didn't want to go in first place, and.
Yeah, and Trent's up like 35 or something, nothing big, but, he's still just pounding the positivity. Mikey's the big winner. It's just great. And Mike is just not having it,
Come on, don't give me that bullshit. You know exactly how much you lost.
Right.
I got about 5 quotes in a row lined up here, but I don't want to just shut them up. Rappe, what do you got next?
So the next one I have is they go have breakfast.
That's perfect. That's where I'm at.
And when he's ordering the pancakes during any time, the age of Aquarius, or was it the age of Aquarius?
Age of Enlightenment.
Age of Enlightenment.
But that's it. He's trying to do that now, and he's so bad at it. But then he thinks it went over her head, and it turns out, I love when she walks by and says, "Hang on, Voltaire."
that is a
great line.
That's a Stephen Wright joke. He tells that joke.
The pancakes
breakfast at any time. Yeah, he's like, I'll have French toast in the Renaissance, or something like that. So, yeah, it's a great joke. But yeah, then the follow up with Voltaire just kicks it right over the edge.
But he keeps humiliating himself no matter what he does. He thinks he's above her, and then it turns out she knows, and he just can do no right. So
right,
and then he screws up again, like right after where they meet Dorothy, or the girl that played Dorothy. And his line is, "Well, we're not Kansas anymore."
I love that.
And then there's just nothing.
Well, not only that, Trent gives the long story about being the 15-year-old whatever kid, and well, we all have stories. Right, it's just silence again.
So jumping back to the we're not in Kansas anymore. Listen to some of the technical stuff. It sounds like all the actors were actually doing technical work at the same time. So I was wondering if Ron Livingston stole that line and brought it over to Office Space when he was talking to Jennifer Aniston, reading her buttons, and like, we're not in Kansas
on the button,
anymore.
Yeah. That could be.
I was trying to picture where that's in Office Space, and you got it there.
Yep.
That and those two girls are great, and they're all in it. So what do you think of Dorothy?
Well, like,
she's kind of hot, or
that's what. Okay, Sarah, that's all I'm getting.
Yeah, I didn't know what you meant. Like, was she cool? Is she hot?
Oh, she's so cute. But
cute.
That Mikey brings it up too and says, that is that weird that was turning me on, and I just thought she was really cute.
I will say I liked her better
cute,
with the pigtails and the dark hair wig rather than the blonde back at the trailer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep. And maybe it's because it's the whole Dorothy thing. So, she looked a little more.
She was a beautiful baby.
She was.
He blew
what I love is how Mikey not only cock blocks himself, but also Trent, and how he just like walks up and he just kind of knocks like, "Hey, I got."
Well, and this might tie into the topic that Rappe has for later. I don't know if this is one of your ideas of that with the calling card, and anything you want to say on that?
Calling card was not on my list until I rewatched it.
Certainly would qualify, yes.
It's a 1-800 number.
Yeah. But that's what I had when I went to college, because there were no phones in the rooms at Morris, and you had to go down, and there were 3 pay phones in the lobby, and that's how you could call long distance.
Really?
Sit in a phone booth in the lobby of the dorms. Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous.
The dorm room I was in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, we had one phone, one pay phone.
Oh.
And same thing. So,
wow.
No, and I the scene where he tries to get to the phone or try to use the phone, to me that is another just physically painful moment too.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
To me, that's right up with the blackjack table and right.
He couldn't wait 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean.
They haven't been in there that long. But how do you do that to your buddy? Like, you're that selfish and you're that.
If any of you did that to me, I would freaking kill you.
But Trent doesn't hold it against him either. He gets over it, and when they're in the car there
for it.
Even when he's knocking, even when he's knocking, the first thing Trent does is just hand him a condom.
A condom.
It's like. Yeah, no, he's totally watching out for him. And he's like, well, I need to use the phone. He's like, stop. Just stop.
But then he's sitting there holding the pillow, just naked. And then they're all like crying and being supported from Mikey.
And he's like giving the fist bump, like, yeah, there you go, man.
Rolling his eyes.
But that leads to the other really famous line where he's like, you are so money and you don't even know it. And then they start, that's how they keep trying to build him up. And I mean, how many times we said that over the years. Right. But in that car scene, we're on the side of the road. You got King of the Road playing as they leave, which is great.
I love that freaking song.
That whole thing too was illegal to film that. They had to do that and not get caught. They didn't permit to do that. That was just another example of how they had to throw things together as they could and try to get away with them.
And with the soundtrack thing, just jumping back, the Heart soundtrack.
Magic Man.
Yeah. I thought that was an amazing needle drop, and kind of felt like a Scorsese homage almost. And
well, and I had another one actually before that too. When they're first meeting the girls in the Bamboo Lounge, they're playing "Paid for Loving" from the soundtrack. And every song just seems to fit perfectly at the time that it's played. But Magic Man is awesome. Okay, so either they're on the road or they're back. What do you got next?
I have the par 3.
Yeah, that's what I got. My golf.
This is freaking great.
Let's get there.
That's my favorite line, because as a golfer, they are so ridiculous out there. And when he says "get there" on that putt, it's just
halfway there. It only gets halfway there, and that's what's the best.
And they're golfing. They have 4 clubs between the 2 of them.
Yep.
Well, it's a par 3 course. That's all they need. Yeah, it's all they need. It's a little par. It's a cheap ass, trashy par 3. What more do you need?
Well, usually you are still required to have your own set of clubs, though. But apparently they must be
not
sharing.
in a course like that. Come on.
Either they all. So.
And then he makes the putt, and then he's counting up his strokes. Like we've all been there too.
I'll
give you an 8.
Like he's got it. Like,
8 or a 9.
He's going with his finger, like counting it, and then he counts, and then he's got to go back and do it again to make sure. I don't know, 8 or 9. You know.
I'll give you.
And that. What I loved was that they actually gave a proper score. Like I was, you
like,
watch this the first time, you're assuming he's going to go like bogey. It's like, no, good Lord, no.
I also like the whole, I didn't even mention her. Or did you notice I haven't even mentioned to her?
Oh yeah. That's
like, I didn't want to jinx you, kind of like not talking to your pitcher during a no hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a fantastic line.
Yeah.
Is that the scene where Rob is talking about his potential Goofy role that comes up more than once, but this is where he mentions it first.
This is where he gets to know his
at least it's
backstory a little bit, yeah.
Well, right, and he's just disgusted by the thought of it in the beginning, because this is the first time we hear it, and then of course later in the show we find out that he didn't get it, and now it's the only thing he really wants is to play Goofy, you know?
It's like he was pissed off because he got Goofy, and then he goes, well, you are tall.
So I think is the next scene the hockey scene.
Yes, that's what I had.
So this to me is one of the iconic scenes, because it just especially this is more for guys probably, but we all can relate so well.
For me, this is just like Brad when you and I played Double Dribble. It's the exact same vibe.
Well, and we played Mario Kart in on Super Nintendo in college every single day, and so. But again, I got 4. I just got line after line here. Go ahead.
Yeah. Mine was Street Fighter, and there was multiple times we had physical brawls during a
Well, yeah, I had in college, my roommate actually hit the footrest of my Lazy Boy so hard it was like a karate chop. He broke it in half.
Oh God.
Yeah. So, and he actually went out and bought a new piece of wood and like redid it and fixed it. It was amazing. But that's Kurt, by the way, for you guys.
Okay.
Run amok.
Yeah. But okay, this is the scene where you could count the times they say bitch.
Yeah.
They've changed babies to bitches now.
Yeah. You're the bitch.
And then I think the whole part with my favorite line here is, it's not so much of me as it is Ronick. He's good. And then, you want to see me make his head bleed?
They took fighting out of the game because kids were fighting and shit. But now they can make his head bleed.
So I did.
Oh, go ahead.
I did hear how they technically did that scene where they couldn't get it to happen.
Yeah, it's not that easy, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, and finally after everything was recorded, they brought Vince Vaughn in, and he played like 6 hours and finally had it happen.
God.
But
6 hours.
To get it then in the scene, Ron Livingston was posed below the VCR, ready to hit play, so they could record it actually happen. Like, so he did, they recorded the head bleeding on a VCR. He's like laying down below the scene, and when they hit action, he'd always hit play on the VCR, so they could actually record it with dialogue and everything.
Oh my God.
This scene also has the part that I feel is the most out of place. Do you feel like the part with the delivery guy seems a little pretty obviously racist and wrong?
It is, yeah.
Racist and dated.
Like,
I'm just gross.
I'm still wondering what they were going for.
Is he clean?
He's he's making him feel awkward on purpose, and that's the whole point of it.
Yeah,
which is
I
pretty
think it
funny,
was to mess with Mikey, but it was just horrible for.
Yeah.
To me, it reminded me of Tom Green's role in Road Trip a little bit.
Yeah,
like just the constant, like, let him in, we want to see him. Like, just kind of just to be weird and try to make everything uncomfortable.
I know, but saying, is he clean? Is he brown? That stuff just seems really like
not good.
It doesn't hold up. Yeah, no. It's an unfortunate thing to have recorded.
Yes. We talked about in Vacation how some people think the St. Louis scene should be like edited out of like TV showings. I feel like this is the scene. If you're going to edit something out, is that little bit right there? You could edit that out.
Mm-hmm.
But he comes back with the food, and I love the line, eat you jackals. No, you fucking jackals.
So it also reminded me when like they sent Mikey to go pay for it and stuff, and he tried to get money. That was like, that's
when he made his head bleed.
Fighting about who's going to pay, and that's a great.
Well, again, everybody's broke.
Yeah, right. Which reminded me of like one time we ordered a pizza and stuff, and we're like seriously like digging through the couch cushions to try to get as much as we can, and we realized we just have enough but no tip. And someone has like a $2 winning lottery ticket. So I was like, dude, it's a legit lottery ticket. Please take this as tip. We apologize for not having.
Yeah, God forbid you actually cook something.
That leads to they're actually going to go out now. And this is part 2 where as a 47-year-old now, the idea of going to get a bite at 10, to go to a pre at just the lateness of the night is just I can't. It makes me retch thinking about it. I can't.
Right? Well, yeah.
Why are we going here at 10 o'clock for the party starts at? It's great.
Well, in college, the night wouldn't start until at least 10 o'clock.
I know.
Yeah,
that's just the way it was. You know, now it's like 10 o'clock. You're starting to look at your
10
watch.
O'clock is like when you need to be home.
Right. What time are we getting back? You know, I got to get to bed here. Yeah. Exactly.
But
over 4th of July weekend, I ended up closing out 2 bars within 4 days of each other. It took me 3 days to recover.
Right.
It hurt.
It would.
It was
for sure.
If I'm up past like 1 o'clock, like if I'm not asleep, I mean, it's just I can't even handle it. Like mentally, I'm just done for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the scene where, you know, I really connect with it because in 1996, when this movie came out, I was driving a red 2-door Chevy Cavalier.
That piece of shit over there.
I loved that car, man. I loved that car.
But so they're all going out, yeah. And we have one of my other favorite lines that I love to say. Many of us say over and over. So what's the name of their other friend that they meet up with?
Was it Alex?
I forgot who that guy's name is.
The African American guy is Charles. Sue is
okay. So Charles is the guy who says this place is dead anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and it's millions of people everywhere you look, but I love that. And that line just works anytime you want to go somewhere. This place is dead anyway.
I do miss bars like being 3 people deep and just that crowded and stuff.
Oh my God.
I don't know if
really?
Well, I take that back. In my brain, I miss it. If I get there now, I probably like, well, this is bullshit. I'm out of here.
Right. Oh, right.
But I do remember those days, and there's part of me that does miss it. And
well, it'd be a little bit more fun because, you know, Rob and Mikey are standing there talking about how, you know, because Rob just got into town recently, and he's just amazed at the level of hotness that you have in this town. Like the top 10% from all over the country end up here, you know, so that's, you know, a little more enticing to go out to a bar that's, you know, 3 deep at the, you know, to get served if, you know, there's that kind of talent running around as well. So, but again, you know, you got Charles, he's used to it at this point. He's like, let's get out of here. It's dead. You know?
It is dead.
So another great soundtrack song. You got "Pick Up the Pieces" by Average White Band playing while they're driving around and talking. And this is where you have the Goodfellas mention and the Reservoir. They work all those right into the same part here as they're like traveling about on their way. Yep. I love how they're in 5 separate cars too. Nobody carpools.
Oh yeah. That's what I always think of when I think of this movie is the 5 guys, 5 cars. And you're going to this house in the hills to a party where there's obviously no frickin' parking anywhere. And you can't just, you know, jump in the same car for crying out loud. Like, really?
You never know who you're going to go home with.
Well, that's exactly it. That shows the optimism of that age of, you know what, we better all drive separate because, you know, and later in the movie, you know, when Mikey, you know, hooks up with Lorraine, he's got his two buddies with him, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, buddy. If you didn't have to drive us home, you would have been set."
So what that one reminded me of also was, like I remember doing those caravans and following around. I always hated being the first person because trying to watch like 4 lights behind you to make sure
with you
everybody's still there, or
Yep.
if you make it through the red light and nobody else does, pulling over and waiting and
yes.
yeah.
So fun fact that maybe some of you found, I had heard this before, but this party that they go to in the hills, do you know who one of the people that are at the party is, just in the background? I don't think you even see him, but he's there. And he was Jon Favreau's real life downstairs neighbor at the time.
Was it John Hamm?
No. Good guess, though. It's
Bradley
Adam
Cooper.
Scott. Adam Scott is at
really?
the party.
Yeah.
And he lived right below Jon Favreau at this time.
Okay.
Adam Scott, who also was in the REM Drive video in the huge crowd, the crowd surfing part there. So he's got a great background from before he was really famous.
Random.
Sure.
I like
anything
the party
about the party that you have to say?
Yeah, because I like when they're trying to see if the girl's looking. Is she looking? She's not going to look. She's not going to look. Just get over it. She's not going to. Oh, she just looked.
Well, I love when. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I always wondered what Trent or any of them saw in that particular girl.
It's got a backpack on.
For what they look like, for what they're looking at for all these beautiful babies they're looking for. She just didn't seem like she would stand out to me, but
she looked kind
and
of
then obviously
first, and then she gets totally annoying when she started. Yeah, when she started talking.
Yeah, you got the jaws.
And then it just slays me when he walks. She gives him her number, and then he just walks away and just immediately tears it up. She didn't see it, but he just tears it up. That's
on the soundtrack, but the Jaws theme.
So to answer your question, Brad, for me, any girl smoking a cigar in the 90s was the biggest turn on for me
Actually,
ever.
I think you nailed it right there, because they called her Groucho, and that's cool for them too. You got it.
Well, that was one of Trent's deals too. Like he would have the cigar cooking, so that's an in right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing I couldn't believe was people smoking in somebody's house during a party.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I actually was wondering whose house is this with all the people that are there and you just go up to this bar where there's just liquor, just take what you want. It's like that kind of party doesn't register with me very well. I don't know that kind of scene.
Well,
not
we didn't
back
grow
then.
up. We grew up in Tyler, not in the Hollywood Hills.
Well, I know that's why.
So
That's it. That's it.
So during that age, I had a buddy that owned a house that had a bar in the basement, and his policy was every Saturday he would throw a party. You're invited as long as you bring a bottle. That bottle stays here.
Okay, so it's like a communal.
Yeah. So the bar grows. I was his bartender, and that whole scene, except for the smoking on the inside, completely reminded like that was happening at the same time this movie came out with my buddies. And there's a good chance at one of those parties we watched this movie.
Are we to the Dresden yet? Or anything else on the party?
I think we are.
Driving to the Dresden, the first thing I have is everybody using a club.
Yeah, the clubs on the steering wheels. I have. So in 2016, we went to LA before we drove up the coast, and we went to the Dresden. It was awesome. So we were on one of those. We did a tour during the day, like a Hollywood tour. And we drove by it, and the guy pointed out, there's the Dresden, famous from like Swingers. And he might have mentioned one other thing. I'm like, and I hadn't even like thought about it. But with that night, we were going to this restaurant that was part of Kim's favorite show, Vanderpump Rules. And after we went there and ate, we went to the Dresden. And Marty and Elaine, the two that are singing Stayin' Alive, they still play there. And they were playing that night. I saw them play. I was
20
at that
years
place.
later?
Oh, yeah. I looked it up. Because
he looked pretty old in that movie.
Yeah.
No, I think they still play there from what I saw.
From what I've heard, they still play there, and they still look just like they did from Swingers.
So that was my I just thought that was so fun to go there, and like we sat in a booth, and we saw them, and it's great because I love that. That's the place where I would like to go hang out. It's not so busy.
Right.
It's a cool place, cool vibe.
I was actually amazed when they walked into the Dresden that there was a lot of people there, because they pull in and the parking lot's empty. It's ready to receive 5 cars that pull in right in a row. And I'm like, this place is going to be dead. But no, they walk in and it's
synchronized parking.
Yep.
This is the scene. Now we're talking about the bear. You're like a big bear.
Big bear with claws,
with
man.
Claws and teeth. It's great motivational speech.
You just bat the buddy around.
It's like I got these claws and these teeth, and I don't know what to do with them.
Hey, Pete, I don't want you to be the guy in the PG-13 movie, the guy that everybody's really hoping makes it happen. I want you to be the guy in the R-rated movie, the guy you're not too sure about.
That is really good advice for when you're going out like that. That's actually good advice.
And to Mikey's credit, he tried in this one. Well, it actually worked. It worked.
It did work.
Until he was left to his own devices.
Then at first she recognized him from Starbucks.
Another awkward.
That was awesome.
I think you were applying for a job.
No, I have a booking agent.
It was a long time ago. No, I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Right,
2 weeks ago.
So that little bunny and the claws speech, I guess what I read was one that Vince Vaughn actually gave to Favreau one night, and he put it into the movie. So that was, from real life.
It was a real life speech he was given.
Yeah. Like
I heard this. I heard
Vaughn,
the same thing.
Vaughn told him this one night while they were out, and so he took that memory and put it into the movie.
It's a good speech, and it worked.
Yeah.
He got him pumped up, and he got her number. But before he goes home, there's the great parking lot scene too.
God.
I was gonna. I thought you were gonna be talking about one other. The rules for when you call back.
Oh
yes.
yeah.
How many days?
Go back
that whole conversation. It's like, do you wait 1 day, 2 days? 1 day seems desperate, and then it's like at the very end of it, they all agree 6 days.
Right.
That's not anywhere near what they were even talking about.
Right. When are you going to call your girls back? 6 days.
2 days is pretty good, but I think 3 days is kind of money. Sue pulls a gun. Didn't you see Boys in the Hood? Not one of us is going to get shot.
Right.
So that whole scene reminded me of a time I was in Duluth, where it was spring break and it was 25-cent liney night at Grandma's, and I drank my $5 worth and was on. Like a bouncer comes up to me and said, "You need to leave now," and I'm like, "No, I'm fine." He's like, "No, you don't understand. You need to leave now." And so me and my buddies, we get escorted out, and the first time I was staying out there with a buddy of mine, we're back at his place and we're playing probably Street Fighter or double dribble or something. And all of a sudden the door opens and that bouncer comes walking into the apartment.
Wow.
And I'm like, what is going on? And so I'm already standing to fight. And I didn't realize this was my buddy's roommate. And he just happened to be coming home after working. And the reason we didn't get the crap kicked out of us at Grandma's was because my buddy knew him and he got us out of there before something worse happened.
Did he explain to you why you needed to leave, or was there something you were unaware of in your drunken state that you were getting into a situation that wasn't good for you?
I drank a case of Liney's in 2 hours. I have no recollection of what was going on. I'm sure I pissed somebody off. I'm sure there was a fight about to happen, and I'm sure it was all legitimate, and I had no recollection on why or how or what had happened.
This is another one where I can relate to, though, not with the gun part, but where I've been with friends and there's been an altercation nearby or something bubbled up and they feel the need to get involved in it. I'm sure Dave is listening right now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Dave and I'm thinking Chris.
Yeah. So actually, we were in Vegas once where something happened, and I had to walk out of the place and go sit in the car and say, "I'm out of here," and wait. But anyway, just that whole idea of we aren't part of this. We don't need this. You don't need to be the hero. Like House of Pain was going to do anything. And it's just because, I'm never going to be in a fight ever. So it's
challenge accepted.
And they're great.
We can bait him.
They know how much I love them. But they also are aware of those situations where I brought it up before, and how it just makes me so mad when that happens. But that's great, Rappy, that you met him, because in the movie, 2 scenes later, they're all hanging out playing hockey in the same apartment together.
Right. Yep.
All right, but I think this brings us to the most awkward part of the movie, maybe.
Painful. Yeah. He's going home, and then he's leaving all of these answering machine messages for this new girl that he had just met, because he's drunk.
Wasn't going to call for 3 days.
Yeah, but he's drunk and he's desperate, and so I
think drunk texting before there was texting. This is exactly what it is. I mean, holy crap! You gotta put your phone away when you get home.
I think he had a few drinks, and that played into it, and the fact that he was so sad and desperate and lonely.
I think that's what it was.
And it's a combination of everything. And
did you count how many times he called her?
It had to be about 6 or 8.
It was 6. You got it.
Okay.
And on the 6th call, she picked up and says, "Don't ever call me.
Don't ever call me again."
Yeah.
And now he's just
destitute. But I feel so much in that scene, because it could be me. But like when he first leaves the message and you hear the buzzer as he's leaving the last number, you're like, you totally understand why you would want to call back. And
you got to.
It's like he keeps getting cut off.
And I've made that second phone call before where it's just in case.
Yep.
It's so painful to watch, but yet you're like rooting for him, and you understand what he's doing, even though you know he shouldn't be doing it, and it's just like, oh.
Yeah, this is the scene that I relate to the most, unfortunately. Like this is what I would have done. He's on such a dry spell, and he's, trying to get over this girl that he broke up with, essentially moved away from, that he's just been heartbroken over, and now he's finally got a sliver of hope with somebody new, and he can't help himself. He's got to do it. He's got to call.
So now he's alone and destitute in his apartment for 2 days. Oh, go ahead.
I thought Rappe had something there.
I was just gonna say it reminded me of one time I was really into this girl when I was working on my master's degree. Brought her to a Prince concert. It was right before winter break. So she was flying back home from New York, and like, I'll give you a call give me a call when you get back. So the next day I call, and like, hey, safe travels, have a great time. Just kind of left it at that. Waited, never heard back. Like 3 days after she was supposed to get back, I give her a call, like, hey, how's it going? Hope everything's all right. Then like the next day, call back, is like, hey, haven't heard from you. Hope you're all right. Give me a call, let me know. And I think I had like 2 more calls after that, and never, like, just ghosted, and rightfully so.
Goes from the nice guy looking out for your well-being to what the hell is going on?
Well, and that's
calling me back.
Take
that
the
exact
hint.
scene played out in Seinfeld too, where George did that, and she wouldn't call him back because she was off, and she actually thought he was kidding, and it all worked out. But like the upgrading of the anger in his messages is just classic.
That was where they tried to switch out the tape, right? The Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, they went up and they did switch it out. It actually worked. But then she said, "Oh, I called and got my messages, and I heard those." It's a little different now.
So now we are where he's just lonely on his apartment room floor, sitting. He hasn't eaten, showered, changed clothes, anything in 2 days. It looks like he had just been sitting there, and then finally
Rob came in to help.
Finally, Rob comes in and is the supportive friend and talks him through it, and is very understanding. And goes into this story about how the pain goes away. And when it does, it's like you kind of miss the pain because you've lived with it for so long, which was a kind of a powerful line and a powerful moment. And the one, I think, the very, very subtle turning point in the entire movie is when he actually took a bite of the salami, because that's when because Rob brings him some food and throws it to him, but he's not interested. But then he gives him that little pep talk, and then he takes a bite of the salami, which kind of was a subtle sign that he's all right. He's gonna turn it around now and come back.
Well, and that scene is well done because Rob is his most like grounded, normal friend, and that's who he needs at that time. He doesn't need Trent coming in and throwing the babies and the money, or he doesn't need that. It's not going to help. Right. And Rob actually gets through to him. He's his like soulmate as a friend. Yeah. He's on the same level.
Right. Well, and I believe it was the very first scene of the movie where they're talking about it and how they're not going to get back to you until you forget.
Exactly. Oh,
then somehow
that too. Yeah.
Somehow they know.
So true. I've forgotten about that, and that's
you're waiting for that the entire movie. You know that's coming to slap him in the face, and you're dreading it and wondering how he's gonna.
Did that girl from New York call you back later on Rappe?
Right?
No, never did.
No.
I'd run into her on campus every so often. We'd chat, but it was definitely a wasted a Prince concert ticket on her. So.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, that is a big one.
Speaking of concerts, I think we go to the Derby next, and so Big Bad Voodoo Daddy.
Isn't it after this though? It's after they get up, and then it's the next video game scene where the gang is there. Oh, right. So and what's funny is because that's why they're all like, "Hey, it's been 2 days. You should call that girl back."
Right.
so just jumping back to the Ron Livingston part. I just was wondering if anybody else had their what do you bring your buddy, 2 days in, like I knew what I'd bring my friends was a bottle of Gatorade and either a Subway sandwich or a cream cheese bagel. So I don't know if anyone else.
Well, I'd have to know which friend it was, and I guess I don't have an answer for that. But that's a great thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing was the terrifying moment when you opened that door and the room was dark. For when I brought it to friends or when they brought it to me. So, but I like that whole imagery just brought me back to a lot of different times in my 20s. So.
I guess I'd usually think of bringing a 6-pack, but that might not be the best thing depending on the situation.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
All right. So
anyway, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy is playing, and have you seen them, Rappe?
Yes, I saw them a couple times.
Were you? I saw them shortly after this at First Ave, like in '97. Were you at the same one? Have we talked about this?
No, I wasn't at First Ave. I think I saw them with Beck at some sort of winter festival.
Interesting. Yeah, I saw them at First Ave. It was actually the first time I ever went to First Ave, and they were awesome. And you got all the people actually swing dancing on the floor area. It was so fun. I think they're great, and I love them on the soundtrack is great, and they make it great. But like I had their CD too. They're so fun.
Yeah,
they just played in Burnsville.
I saw that. How long ago was that?
That was like our first weekend off after school ended.
That recently?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, unless they played here another time. I saw they were here at one point, and I was thinking, man, I should go do that, but didn't see them.
See, and I love this because, like, in high school, when we were big into country, we would, go to parties and country swing dance. I don't know if you and Pete were at these parties,
you were probably line dancing, Gifford.
Like I never line danced. No, sir.
Are you serious? Country swing dancing?
Oh yeah, I had some moves,
square
dancing.
Buddy.
I am not aware of that at all.
Sweet moves. That's the next scene that I relate to heavily is the scene with Lorraine where Mikey is swing dancing with Lorraine, and I'm like, oh man, I got some moves I could have, showed her.
So this scene in the Derby is where it was a bunch of unpaid extras, and so like they're just filming this like on a night, and like most of those people are just there. But
even the dancers?
Well, they might have been because they were probably there to dance to Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, and I
figured they were paid professional dancers. They were looking pretty good.
No, I think Brad's correct. I think that was part of the fad at the time, and
yeah,
it's kind of,
I'm sure if they're playing, there's always going to be people there dancing. So
yeah,
and they probably thought, oh, we're not going to get paid, but we're going to be in. I mean, they probably thought that was cool.
Could they have a more perfect actress for this exact role?
I was just going to say, how can you go wrong in this role with Heather Graham?
Yeah.
And she is like so perfect and sweet, and is the kind of girl that you just look at and you'd fall in love with her right away.
And it's like she is sweet, but it's like a crazy stupid love, the perfect combination of sexy and cute.
Yep.
Like she is sweet, but she's got that whole thing going there, and you can see why he is drawn to it. Like she can flirt with him while being awkward. She can go both ways on that.
Yeah, but she's awkward, as you say, because we find out she calls him the next day. But also, I thought it was so hot when they were dancing, and there's no smile on her face, just a straight face.
Yes.
And she's just looking at him.
Yeah.
Like she is in that moment.
Well, he's doing the same thing.
Yeah, with him, those two are two peas in a pod. They've been looking for somebody, and they just happen to, find each other and the other great part is when he sees her across the bar and the bartender passes in front of her, and then it's a bunny, and he just gets this smile on his face. It's like, oh, it's on.
They were going to have a real bunny there, but they couldn't get that okayed, so they had to go with the stuffed one.
That wasn't a real bunny?
I thought it was a real bunny.
His nose was moving.
Was it?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I thought I read.
Maybe it was a puppet.
I guess I would have
maybe a puppet.
Check back.
I was looking at the nose. It was moving.
It's probably unlikely you could have a bunny in a bar like that. I mean, get some kind of violation probably.
Well, there's all the beautiful babies in a bar. You can't have babies in a bar. Be honest.
Right, the dance scene is great, and the Go Daddy-O they're playing. What do you got here, Rappe?
For me, the whole scene from the walk in from the Goodfellas homage.
Yes, that starts with that one here. That's great.
And I love it. It also just reminded me of like a lot of the places I used to hang out where you knew all the staff's names and you knew what was going on, and you could like, hey, how's it going, and you just knew everybody and just kind of walk in. The whole thing is just it feels like almost like a perfect scene. It's so well done.
Yes.
And you just feel the shared moment between Favreau and Heather Graham, and it's and part of me always thinks like, should they just end the movie right here?
Yeah, I always feel like it's kind of the last scene, but then you remember, no, there's more.
Well, and then before we get to the next scene, but the cutaways going back and forth to the friends too that are like
their faces.
It's finally
hammered. They're so hammered.
But they can't believe he's dancing like that. They have, it's like me learning about Gifford tonight. They just have no idea who this guy is out there.
What I love about it is you have this with the Vince Vaughn character of Trent having what you think is fake bravado, right? Like they're in Vegas. He really doesn't know what the hell's going on. He talks a big game, but he doesn't know how to play it at the casino to really get the comps and all this stuff. But they go to the Derby and they're walking up to the front. They go, uh-oh, there's a line. And they just coolly walk around. And it's just like Rappe said, like they've been here. They know this is their spot. And
I wonder why they would even go through the front door in the first place.
Right. They were just cruising right past everybody in. They're talking to the bouncer. I think they said something about he lost weight or he's looking good. They're coming through the kitchen.
It is so cool.
This is their stomping grounds. This is why there's that bravado that they have, that Trent has, because he's the king of this place. And
home field advantage. That's what it is. It's home
field
advantage.
Absolutely it is.
You bring something nice to wear.
Yes.
I love, and so the scene after the dancing where they're out by the car, I just smile so big through that whole scene. They are so cute together, and she's fumbling with the keys, and they're getting the cards out, and she recognizes his logo, and he refers to the cars that, first of all, he says, that's my hog right there. Right. No, it's the red piece of shit over there. It's just that the writing there and the interaction is just, I feel like that's perfect.
Yeah.
There's just so much honesty in it.
Yes, that's a good word for it.
Yep. Yeah. These two found each other amongst the mud and the muck of LA. They just happened to be at the same place.
It also makes me miss. I started kind of like, oh, I wish I could still pick up people at bars instead of trying to do online dating or whatever I'm supposed to be doing right now as a single guy. So
it doesn't really exist anymore.
Take up swing dancing, Rappe. That's what you got to do. I can teach you some moves.
So during the swing dancing craze,
I took lessons. Actually, it was with you guys.
Probably. So Ann Bakken, our band teacher, also the swing director of Burnsville.
Yeah, we have a swing group at our school still. It's huge. Kids just love it.
Me and her would go out quite a bit at that time, and she was great because she could make me look so good on the floor because she knew everything, and she's an amazing swing dancer. But
fun.
Like I spent a lot of time with the fine line, and she spent a lot of time making me look good. So.
Okay, so we're at the diner now, I believe.
Yep.
Which is where you can relate to this now. Trent is drunk out of his mind.
Wait,
and you've always got that one friend who's so
we are at the diner. Yep.
And he's like, he takes the food and he hands it to the guy behind him. And I'm not even hungry. I couldn't touch it. I would never eat here anyway.
Right.
But Mikey's the cool one. Tables turn. Mikey says, "I got it," and he's like, "Oh, good," and he sarcastically, starts taunting him about being all grown up and over the top. But he's so easily distracted. He's like a little kid because then he's distracted by the lady across the way, and he like totally loses his run on that.
Well, yeah, this is where the movie turns between, Trent being the ladies' man and knowing everything, and we're gonna go find the beautiful babies, and you got the big teeth and the claws, and this is how you do it. To Mike being the guy. Mikey is actually money.
Playing it cool, taking your time, not just going to sleep with her right away that first night. And that played into it.
And you see it in the drunken diner scene, and you see it at the very end in the diner where he thinks this girl is into him, but really she's playing peekaboo with, the kid that's in the, booth with her.
Oh, you're a nasty little, cute little baby.
I don't know this girl. Do I know who this is?
That's right. There's actually two diners.
There's two scenes. You skip the part where he's back up in his apartment, and that's when she calls. That's when she calls.
Right. No, well, I didn't skip it because the grown up part is before she calls.
Yeah.
That's the drunk diner scene.
But you got Knock Me a Kiss playing through this last scene, and then, and so she calls, but then Michelle calls. No, Michelle calls first.
Yep.
It's Charles calls, Lorraine calls right when you don't want her to. And
that's when she knows when to call. She knows you forgot about her. That's what they call.
He could have easily called Lorraine back, but it's so cute when he decides to keep her on the line, and then her again, the way she invites him out is it's very cute.
Mm-hmm.
The meet cute.
Yep. And then now you're back at the diner with Trent.
Nasty little cute little baby.
I love the part though where he goes, she called, and oh really? What'd she say? Did you call her back? No, I didn't call her back. It didn't occur to me. And then he's just like blown away. That look on his face, it's just like it didn't occur.
Well, and you can see he's going through the hangover now too. Like he's having a hard time even focusing on just understanding, and then
right.
Yeah.
Well, and he's seeing his friend who's been tore up for 6 months over this one woman, and
she calls back.
When he says, "No, it never occurred to me to call her back," he's hangover or not, you would be absolutely floored by your buddy saying that. He's heard nothing but this about this woman. He got cock blocked in Vegas, so his buddy could call to see if she left a message on his machine, for crying out loud. That would blow you away. That she finally calls, he finally talks to her, cuts her off, and then doesn't call her back. Like, that's crazy.
Because he's all grown up now.
Yeah, what notes do you have here at the end that we didn't get to yet, Rappe?
The big question I was trying to figure out is how long did Mikey and Noreen last?
Yes. You just assume, it's like a romantic comedy. They're going to be together now. But how did that work out? Did it? Because it doesn't have to. It's for the movie, it's more like this. For Mikey, it's like this is he gets it now. He can move on, but it may not be with her.
Right.
But he's over that hump.
Yeah. And my big curiosity is, where is everybody in 6 months? You know,
Sure.
is T still in LA or does he go back to Chicago, wherever he's from? Does, Rob end up? Yeah. Does Mikey actually get an agent?
West Coast
for sure.
representation.
Well, and that's the other thing you see throughout this movie is Mikey's buddies telling him how money he is, but he can't see it because he has absolutely no confidence. He's absolutely shot. But you're hoping that now Lorraine comes in and he can stop being preoccupied with what he doesn't have and realize
will take off.
Realize what he does have and who he is, and can actually, start getting stuff done.
I think it's fitting at the end too. You have I'm beginning to see the light playing over the final credits, which is a good song, time period, but it also fits in with like Mikey's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a couple more notes about this, like fun fact type things. I don't know if you guys have anything else on.
Go ahead.
So that was Jon Favreau's real apartment that they filmed in the movie. That's also Vince Vaughn's real car at the time, the convertible.
Oh,
sweet car.
So the casino they drove up to was Stardust. You might have recognized that, but they actually filmed it in the Fremont.
I was gonna say because they say they're downtown.
Yep.
Yep.
You mentioned the money. It had a $200,000 budget, but it made $4.6 million. But then who knows how much in video? And I mean, this is one of those. It has an 88% critics and 89% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And here's something I didn't know. I love this soundtrack. I've owned it forever and listened to it a million times. Did you know there is a Swingers 2 TOO soundtrack with extra music?
No,
I did.
Did you know that, Rappe?
I did not.
I didn't either. But apparently,
I'll have to look for that one.
Have to check that out.
So those are my follow-up notes. Anybody else?
No, other than to say I have to correct myself from earlier. I thought it was a $4.5 million budget. That was the box office. You're correct. 200,000 was the budget.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I think was it the Tony Bennett song? To get rights for that was $20,000 alone.
Ooh.
Jesus.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Well, and so Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, I mean, they obviously just agreed. I think they were friends with them. I think maybe I read that. Like they knew the guys, and that's how they got. I mean, they probably agreed to be in the movie for publicity and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was very good for them.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Anything else on the movie?
I think we got it.
No,
I'm just glad to discuss it. Yeah, no, this was fantastic. It brought back so many memories and just.
Yeah, you had a lot of good connections and stories that fit in with it. I love it. I am so happy you picked it.
Thank you.
Okay, so you also chose our follow-up topic. What are we going to talk about quick next?
So I was gonna. I would like to do the top 5 pieces of technology that you no longer use or have been replaced.
I think it's an excellent topipic.
But I think you said too, like that you at the time we thought these were like game changers.
Game changer.
Yeah. Well, and the reason you picked it was because of the answering machine scenes in the movie Swingers.
Right.
Which we didn't touch on the Stephen Hawking voice where it's talking back to him.
That's right. Yeah, but that's such a good topic though too, because it works in this movie. But we've brought it up before. Like so many episodes of Friends and Seinfeld would be non-existent today if they just had a cell phone.
Right.
Yeah.
There wouldn't even be anything to do, and so this has elements of that as well.
Right. All right. Well, so what do we want to? How do we want to? I haven't done just a top 5 in so long. I forgot how we do it.
Well,
I wasn't sure on how. Like I wasn't gonna do a draft or anything. I wasn't gonna. It was just everyone throw out, and if it's something similar, tell your story behind it if you want, or pick something else. So
why don't you go first and give us at least one of them?
All right. So my first one, and what I really was thinking about this was MapQuest. Printing off directions and having that, and
printing.
You're like looking at it while you're driving. You're trying to read it. It's like okay, 3 miles, turn left.
Yeah.
You're on 94.
while still having laminated maps next to me just in case MapQuest was wrong or something went totally
Did
bad.
you guys print off MapQuest and then write your own directions off of MapQuest? It's like, well, I know it this far, so I just need like the last like 6 turns to get to where I'm going.
But I love maps and having maps in the car, but they don't give you the directions and they don't show you all the detail.
Right.
So MapQuest was a big deal. We went on one of our first road trips. My wife and I went on. We went to Moab. We went to Arches National Park. We went to the Grand Canyon and Scottsdale and back around. And I still have a folder somewhere in my house here of that whole trip. I had every day a MapQuest printed out of this is where we're going and how we're getting there. And we followed that itinerary all the way through. And then I saved it afterwards.
So I just did a road trip with my mom to go see family in Ohio. And she went to AAA and got a triptych. And as I was driving,
we got those too.
My mom was like a rally driver. Like I had the GPS going. I didn't even I have no if Google says this is where I go now. But she's like a rally driver, memorizing the route. And it's like, well, there's a gas station in the next 2 exits if you want to take that one. It's just like
right.
Mm-hmm. I got another one that kind of ties into that. So when we bought our first minivan, I was so excited because it had a navigation system in it. And then we had to decide, do we want the entertainment system with, the VCR or the DVD for kids? And we didn't end up getting the entertainment system, which I thought was a great decision because those are just clunky. And the kids just had their own personal portable DVDs anyway.
Yep.
But the navigation system we barely ever used because it was slow, it was hard to use, and then it didn't update. So after a couple of years, the directions weren't always up to date anymore. Mm-hmm. So everybody just ended up using their phone shortly after that anyway.
Right.
But I thought, oh my God, we're gonna get a van, we're gonna get all these cool things in it, and then we didn't even use them. So
right. Well, and that's what I found when putting together this list is the vast majority of items have been simply replaced by the smartphone.
Exactly. The cell phone has replaced most of the things.
Right. So I'll go next, and I'm going to take something that this did not replace necessarily, and that is the VCR. That was massive when it came out. I remember we would not only go rent videos, but we would rent the VCR, and it came in the case,
you could
and it would pop up out of the top, or you would you didn't actually take the VCR out of the suitcase it came in. You'd open up a little port, the 3 RCA cables would come out, and then there'd be a flap that you'd push the tape into, or it would come out the top, and you'd set it up, and that was how you'd watch the movies. And then God, when you got a VCR and you could actually record shows, I was young. I wasn't able to stay up for, Letterman, or I wasn't staying up for the late night Saturday night movie on ABC or whatever it was. So I would record that coming up. I remember I could set up recording on our VCR without turning the TV on. You just knew which buttons and which order to hit them, and you could program a time for, because that's what it was. Not like now with DVRs where you just go through the guide and you push the thing and then it records that show. You would have to set up a time on this channel, and I could just do it without even turning the TV on in a couple seconds. But that was, for me, that was absolutely massive, was VCR.
The first one I had on my list. Are we
can I follow up on that?
Table? Yeah, go ahead.
Before you do a different one. So I feel like the VCR was a game changer, and it lasted long enough. It was such a huge part of our lives, and I love that you brought up the renting them and everything. What I wrote down was the HD DVD player and the Blu-ray player.
Mm-hmm.
When I got my first one, I was like, which one do you buy? What do you get? And I wanted an HD DVD, and the Blu-ray is I got one, and I'm like, what is this? I didn't need it. It's regular DVD's fine. I also got a VCR DVD recorder, which for a while I recorded things onto DVDs, which was kind of cool, but that lasted for a year. And the big one from way back would be the Laserdisc, which I never actually owned.
I never owned one.
To me, those were all the follow-ups to the VCR, but they were also short-lived or just didn't change things enough. The DVD did. I mean, the DVD itself did. But
you didn't have
all the extras were like, big deal. I didn't need them, and they didn't do anything.
But I went straight from VCR to DVR. Like, I wasn't recording stuff on DVDs. You know, like, the great thing about the VCR was not only could you record shows off of television, you could rent the movie at the video store, and if this is, I'm sorry if I jump into somebody else's, if you had the camcorder, that was the full tape, VCR tape in the camcorder, you could do that and then hook, you know, and then watch the home movie that you just watched. So it covered three different.
The VCR was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it covered three different needs or three different aspects of what you were looking for: your own movies, renting movies, and recording from television.
So my wife and all her college friends, when they graduated from college, they had made a time capsule where they put in things like mementos and whatever, and put a sign on it that said "Do not open for 10 years." Okay, so we had the box. We waited the 10 years, and it was actually wound up being a couple years more or whatever. So she invited a couple of her friends over. They're like, "This is a big deal." They're making a big ceremony out of it. We had dinner and whatever. Open the box, going through the stuff. It's like, "Hey, awesome! We made a videotape." And then everyone looked at it, and then I said, "I hate to break this to you, but VCRs do not exist anymore."
I still have one. I still have a VCR. It's not hooked up, but I do have one in case I need to play a tape.
I don't think they ever actually watched it. So to this day.
No, really?
I don't know what we did with the tape, and I don't know that they.
Oh man!
But that was a pretty funny moment.
What was your next one, Pete?
Mine fits the category. You're going to say, "Well, that's not an individual device or anything," but I think you'll see what I mean by it. Kinko's, and the reason I say that is because
a lot of head nods.
Yeah. It's like it was so big for. You go into Kinko's, you feel like you're being productive, and you're just trying to find reasons that I'm going to go to Kinko's and I'm going to have a good day, and I'm going to get all this stuff done for college and turn all my stuff in. It's going to look professional. And I spent a lot of money and a lot of time just at Kinko's doing final projects that I was going to turn in and whatever. And that was a big deal. And right next to it was like there's a little coffee shop right next to Kinko's, of course, and that defined the 90s, and everyone thought it was so cool to be on that little strip mall right across from campus. It was also right next to the Albatross in Mankato, and now it's like I don't even use paper or a pen at work. I haven't used, and I work in an office setting. I have not written anything down in probably years. It's everything.
And we found out from friends that there's hot chicks who work at the copy place.
That's right.
So one of my student jobs in college was working at a copy shop. Like, the different departments would come in and they would print off all of their stuff for tests or syllabuses or syllabi. Is that what it would be?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I ran copy machines for 2-3 hours a day for my work study job or whatever in college for a couple of years. So yeah, Kinko's, that's a huge one, Pete.
Mine was
that's what she said. Thanks.
Mine was the Kinko's on Snelling and Grand, and there was many times I was there past midnight getting that last minute paper put together, and a lot of resumes got done up there too. So no, that's a great one.
I remember
that's a great choice, but I can count on one hand the amount of times I ever went to a Kinko's. Like, I never used it.
Really?
But I get it. Like, I totally get what you're saying. But for me, I never used it. I found other ways, I guess. I don't know.
one time I remember it being such a big deal because we had a teacher it was freshman year, an anthropology class that I took that you had to take for generals or whatever. And it was for the final, you could have a cheat sheet. She allowed a cheat sheet that was only like so big or whatever. So I remember typing up all of the notes and then running the copy, zooming it down and zooming it down and zooming it down so that I could get as much as I could on that one little piece. I spent more time. No.
Yeah, could you actually read the damn thing?
It was very difficult. I think it helped me on like 2 questions out of 100 or something. But
sure.
But that's where I spent all my time, as opposed to actually just studying, which would have been a lot less work.
Right.
All right, back to you, Rappe.
The next one I have is hypercolor shirts. The ones you'd put on, and when you warm up, they would change color and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I never had one of those either.
I just missed those. I thought those were fun.
You don't wear them anymore?
I can't find mine. Plus, they probably wouldn't fit anymore. I have the young Favreau problem.
Yeah,
but that's a good. I mean, because you can bring up all kinds of different like fashion things too by bringing up that topic, and different types of jeans we wore, or brands that were huge for a while and just kind of disappeared. So. My next one, I'm going to go with, you kind of mentioned like the video camera GIF.
Yep.
This is another one that the cell phone has completely taken over from, but digital cameras.
Yep.
In the early 2000s, like you had to have a digital camera, and you could look at it, you could see the picture and the big screen on it and everything. And those were just a huge deal, and like a huge, what's the word I'm looking for? Market.
Game changer.
Yeah. And
disruptor.
in the second they started making good cameras on your cell phone, like, unless you're like a hardcore photography nerd, I mean, I don't know hardly anybody that has one or uses one anymore.
Well, and so the smartphone, the first iPhone came out in 2007.
Yep.
And and much like Isaac, Sam was born in 2005, Isaac in 2006, so that's before the smartphone. I remember going to Cameras Plus or Cameras something in a mall and buying the camcorder so that we could record all.
We had a camcorder too, and we took a lot of videos for about 4 years.
Yep. Right, yeah, about 4 years. I think I have some stuff of Paul as well, but like more of Sam, because then you started using your smartphone, and so the camcorder just definitely went by the wayside.
I do have a stack of homemade DVDs from those videos I took that we can still watch, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, they're almost as accessible. Like all the stuff you take on your phone, it's like, well, where is it? I don't even know how to access it anymore, or you delete it or whatever. So those DVDs from when they were babies is really nice.
So I got a good one for my next one. It's technically still exists, but it's on your phone. I remember in college, it was a big deal in the late 90s to get the phone. It was a landline phone that had caller ID built in. And when it first came out, that was like all the rage. And it's like, now it's common nature. But that weekend, and Brad, I know you remember what I'm talking about. When you and Dave came down to visit, we were drunk off our asses late at night and making crank calls to everybody on my phone list, because I had like all my friends' all my college friends' phone numbers and everything taped to the wall right next to the phone. And so Dave's like, this is going to be hilarious because it's him calling and nobody knows him because they're from out of town. And so then he starts calling everybody, making like really, really leaving offensive messages, which I won't repeat. Like it would not go over well, especially today. And so just think, and it was funny as shit. And we all had a great time. But then the next day I had 4 people calling me back and saying, "What the fuck was that, Peterson?" Like, so oh yeah, I forgot you have caller ID. And it was like
caller ID kind of ruined the crank call.
Yeah. Some people had caller ID and some people didn't. You didn't know who did. And then one girl we called that I didn't even hardly know, but lived in our apartment building, and I had her number. Because I had met her like once or twice. And then I saw her in the parking lot the next day. She goes, "Hey, I got a really serious phone call last night, and I don't appreciate." I'm like getting bitched out. I'm like, come on.
She's a beautiful baby.
No, she really was. She really was.
That, along with that too, it's in the movie in Swingers there, but Call Waiting too. Like
that was huge.
Yeah.
But like, you don't get phone calls anymore, or I don't want to. It got to the point where you don't even want to talk on the phone. Period. Mm-hmm. So Call Waiting was another thing. Was like I probably used it about 8 times in my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I could never figure it out. I always ended up on the wrong line and saying the wrong things.
Yeah, when I said 8, I think I overshot it actually.
Really overshot it with the 80.
With the 80. What you got more Rappy?
My next one
really good coming.
My next one is the cassette with the wire out of it that you'd put in your car cassette player.
Oh yeah.
And plug it into your Discman.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Brad
had a shelf.
I had that.
Yeah.
There was a time too where not only did I have it for the CD player, but the original iPods I would play through a cassette that plugged into the iPod and played.
Yeah, because there wasn't an aux spot to put it in.
Yeah, and they didn't have a speaker on them, so you didn't have your headphones. So yeah, that was a big help, and it worked through multiple medias.
Yeah.
Well, and this will be kind of along the same lines, but the Walkman or the Discman was absolutely huge. Like,
or the iPod.
Right. Well, yeah, even the iPod. But I'm like, if we want to go back, like it would take me 2.5 hours with a push mower to mow my lawn growing up. So I had
enough time to listen to
push mower. You didn't have a rider?
Twice.
Well, we had a rider, but that was for the trees. Mom didn't like the.
We already went through this, Pete.
Yeah, Mom didn't like the white.
He listened to Def Leppard, Hysteria, and Poison, and I think Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi, that's absolutely correct.
New Jersey.
So I would listen to those while so the Walkman was absolutely huge. Otherwise, I was left with my thoughts for 2.5 hours. Nobody likes that.
You don't want that, yeah.
No, nobody needs that.
I thought you were going to take my next choice when you started that one, actually, Rappy. Mine's related to that. So before those came around, and I didn't really have many of these, but I think you had one, Pete, and my brother was huge into these things. So they had the car stereos. You always had to get the car stereo taken out of the car and buy a new one. And then you could buy the ones that you could pull the whole thing out, or it had the detachable face that you could take off.
Did he have Alpine or Pioneer?
Alpine, I remember that. He might have had a Pioneer too. But those types of car stereos and changing out the factory one, which again you can't do that now, even if you wanted to. Yeah. And those anti-theft things too, which are funny because ironically, my brother is the person who's had more stuff stolen from him out of his house and his car of anybody I've ever known in my life.
I had a good set of speakers that got stolen out of my car, and the stereo that I had, which I never actually took it out anyway, but it was not a detachable face. It was one where you grab the handle and the whole thing comes out.
The whole thing, yeah. My brother had one of those. It was kind of like so cool. Like you buy your car, the first thing you do is to go to Best Buy and you say, "Okay, I want this installed. Take that out and put this one in instead."
Right.
It might be all those pyramid scheme people getting back at your brother and stealing stuff out of his car, maybe.
That could be it. Yep.
He had bikes and wheels stolen in his apartment, and then he moved to Canada, and his house got broken into. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's multi-level and multinational marketing schemes.
Sorry, Rappy.
I had a girlfriend once that had the detachable face radio in her car. She lost the face. For like 6 months.
There you go.
Couldn't figure out where it was. And it had fallen and was under her seat. And when she finally cleaned her car out, she found it.
Oh, God.
Jesus. The lesson is clean your car.
Yeah.
So, Pete, I was thinking, so when you bought your Neon, which of course is not a fancy car, but I was thinking you had a face like that. But I think I'm confused because your radio had a little dinosaur icon that came on. But it wasn't actually like a detachable stereo.
That was right. That's correct.
But you had like a weird feature on your stereo there that was unique.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Next.
Anyway.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to go with our introduction to the internets, the interwebs, and that's the dial-up modem.
That's my next one on my list as well.
That was absolutely huge. You hear the fax sound when you dial in or whatever, and you're just waiting, the AOL, and
And I throw in Netscape Navigator.
Netscape Navigator 2.0.
I had the AOL disc.
Yep. Oh, I remember Pete having Pete was the forerunner of technology and Tyler of my friends, because you were the only one I knew that had the internet.
What, in Tyler?
Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't even have a computer in my house.
Does he know what he's talking about, Pete?
You had AOL at your place?
I remember having it at my parents' place. I didn't know that I was considered a forerunner.
For me, bear in mind, I didn't have NBC. So somebody who had NBC and the internet was like, Steve Jobs to me in high school.
But we must be talking like in college then, right?
It would have been after college,
for the summer.
No, I thought you had it in high school.
No.
Nobody had it in high school.
He had a Super Nintendo in high school. That's what we had.
Oh, really? Okay.
I didn't
Must
know
have been in college.
Internet. I remember learning about the internet for the first time freshman year in college.
Yes, me too.
And they started teaching it in classes that I had.
Does anybody remember when you got your university email address, going to the computer lab and like messaging people at other colleges and getting their email address and just sitting in the computer lab and talking to people?
Yeah, I sent Trevor Winter an email once and he responded. And it was like because Brad had emailed him first, and under his roommate's name, Dusty.
Nice.
And Brad just emailed him the score of the RTR game where he lost, which was his last basketball game.
He didn't think it was funny.
It was pretty funny.
You showed him.
Yeah. Especially because I didn't even play on the team, so.
But yeah, dial-up modems was the next one that I had, and I had a buddy. Well, I had two guys that were roommates. I was friends with both of them freshman year, but one of them was like the super computer science nerd, and so he was always on the computer and doing stuff with the internet. And he would get so pissed, like if you would accidentally pick up the phone and he'd say, "Hey, I'm just going to call whatever," and just say, "Hey, you want to go down to lunch?" or something like that. And it would totally screw up everything that he was doing, and it was just hilarious.
That's awesome.
Another one?
What's that?
Anybody got another one?
Oh, I got a couple more here. I got two that kind of go together. We're going way back, and we're going with the landline. Talking for hours and hours and hours with your friends on the phone, tying that whole thing up. Busy signals.
I would go cordless phone on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not having to be stuck to even with a long cord, stuck to that spot.
Man, I remember the long cord. But to go along with that, right?
Yes.
To go along with that is your address book, not so much for addresses, but for everybody's phone number, and then having like speed dial on. I thought I was really cool in college when I got a phone that had like 10 numbers that you could program in there, so it was all speed dial. But you had to remember phone numbers, so you had your little black book. Of course, I didn't have any beautiful babies in there, but it was all you guys. And you would change it. I still have. I think I have it right here, actually. I still have this book, and it's great because everybody would move every year, so you'd have to scribble out their number and their address and put it in there, because everybody would change dorms or change a house or whatever every year. So you'd have to keep up so you knew where everybody was at.
All right. Rappe, what's your next one?
Iced beer.
So yes! Ice House. Bud Ice.
Oh, good one.
Wilson Ice. Oh my God. I didn't drink much in high school, but at the end of my senior year, it was Ice House.
Yes. Yep. And it was all I would like. I was such a beer. Like, no, I'll only drink an ice beer. No, I don't want anything.
That's so great.
It was supposed to have a higher alcohol content, right? Isn't that the thing?
Suppose I don't know. I go back to The Simpsons where it's just the 3 tubes going into the same vat. So.
Yes, Ice House and Red Dog was always the
king.
Oh
yeah,
Red Dog.
The upside down Batman and Catwoman symbol.
Oh,
yep.
God, so bad.
I have one. I don't have much to say about it, but our last week's episode, Tom Hanks and Dragnet was watching TV on his watch. Oh, and I wrote down, I always wanted a calculator watch when I was a kid so bad. I never had one. And then, or a watch that you could watch TV on. So I thought those were really cool. And I don't think those lasted very long.
Courtney always accuses me of having a calculator watch when I was growing up because I'm such a nerd. I never had one, but I wanted one so bad. So I'm with you on that.
You're not that kind of a nerd.
I'm that kind of a nerd. Yes, I am. The app I use the most on my phone probably is my calculator. It's
I use I use it on my computer and my phone all the time.
Yeah. Big dork.
Next.
I think we actually covered all the ones that I had on my list.
I have one left. I'll throw it out and then you guys can take over.
Go for it.
I thought of one as a teacher. Sorry, my dog is barking.
Larry.
Somebody else go.
All right. I'm going to throw out there the NES. I mean, obviously Atari was before it, but NES, and of course there's still home gaming systems, but that was absolutely
they're not nearly they're technologically advanced, obviously, but they're nowhere near as fun, in my opinion, as they were back then.
As they were, yeah. Yep. My youngest son just downloaded a gaming onto his laptop where it's all old NES games. So I mean the games are still awesome. I just played Contra like 2 days ago on his laptop or his laptop because I hadn't played it in forever, but it started coming back to me pretty quick and totally fun to play. But NES was massive when we were growing up.
Well, I've said it a million times. I still have mine downstairs and still play it.
Must be nice.
Wouldn't qualify for Brad's list because he still uses it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, he still.
And I would say NES was a bigger game changer than the Atari 2600.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just technology-wise and just bringing
in
just popularity.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Lasted so much longer.
Right.
Brad, you were going to say something about. Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, I was wondering, me and Brad might have the exact same thing for.
Oh, you go then. Let's see what you have.
I was going to say overhead projector.
Oh, that's a good one, but I have a newer one than I was trying to go with like newer things, but that's
okay. I was just going overhead projector to bring up the Office Space TikTok we did and just trying to tie my shows together. So
well, and I remember, I mean, I go back long enough that I used those every day and had to make overheads. You had to write on them or go print them. I mean, those were an essential part of the job for many years.
I remember I was going to say the overhead sheets, like those that you could get to print on, those were like gold standard. You could trade anything for that if also you ran out or needed some. It was I had stashes of those all over the building.
The one that I was going to say is the smart board, which we have officially pretty much retired completely now. But I mean, even though I had it in my room for like 12 years, I only really used the smart board aspect of it like rarely or for a few years. You could use it as a screen, like you could project on it. But like it did not change teaching. It did not change the game like you kind of thought it would. It was too clunky. Took too much time to get things to do it. So that was mine.
Yep. No, I agree with that fully. Yeah.
Well, and when I think of overhead projectors, there's one teacher and one teacher only that I think about, and that is Bugman.
Yep.
I mean, you would sit there all hour, week after week, just copying the slides from the overhead projector, and you had to have them all because he was going to test you on any number of things that were on those slides.
Yeah.
The last one I have on my list is the stereo and the components for the stereo.
Like that's a good one.
You had to have the receiver. So you move into a new place, you set up your big clunky entertainment center where you had VCR tape still, and then you get into DVDs. You'd set up your VCR, you'd hook that into your receiver, and then you'd have maybe a tape deck or a DVD player that was hooked up to that hooked into your TV. Then you'd set up your surround sound speakers all around the room with your subwoofer next to the entertainment center, and like that was one of the first things you'd do whenever you moved was set up the entertainment center with the stereo equipment, so everything was ready to go for your entertainment.
and hope you set it up correctly.
Oh, I nailed it every time. I'm a big dork. Of course, I set it up right every time. For sure.
Calculator watch.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that could also go into monster cables. You know,
sure.
Geez.
Yeah, how big of a deal. It's like,
biggest waste of money of all time.
Yeah. Not if you worked at Best Buy, because it was like, they were, they would sell them for like $110, but we got 5% over cost. So for us, it was like $12 to buy one. So, nice. And that's how much. They're like a 95% markup on them. That's where they would make their money.
Oh my God.
Is that it? Does everybody have everything?
That's
the only one I had that I haven't heard yet is a pager.
Oh yeah,
I never had a pager.
I never had one. I always was confused at how those worked. I never had one of those.
It just showed you the number, and then you'd have to call them back from a regular.
I know, but it's just
you weren't a drug dealer, Brad. You know,
so I also think that's where Swingers kind of came at the perfect time, because it was pre-cell phone, pre-pager.
Yep.
Answering machine, like all that. Like it is definitely a nice archival relic of the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My wife had a Palm Pilot. That was going to be a big thing for your organization too.
PDA.
Yeah.
PDAs were big.
Everything goes into the phone now.
Yep.
Hey, Gifford, you know who's so money and they don't even know it?
Preacher Row.
Well, you should have asked Rappe that question.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, sorry.
Kind of our thing at the end,
Yeah.
I heard Preacher Row's money.
They are money. They are so money.
They're beautiful babies.
They have claws.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, Rappe, it's always fun to have you on.
Yes,
it is. Thank you for your continued support. Yes,
absolutely. I will gladly come back anytime, and always a pleasure. And thank you. And I look forward to this coming out.
Excellent. Let's get out of here.
We all have stories.
This place is dead. This place is dead anyway.
Oh, Pete, that's the better one. You got it. Bye.